Imagine waking up every day chasing a dream but feeling like something's still missing. Mia, a young songwriter in Nashville, is surrounded by songs and the promise of success. But on a seemingly ordinary morning, an unfamiliar melody drifts into her small apartment, and everything starts to change. The music is coming from her mysterious neighbor, and every note seems to reveal secrets she didn't even know she was keeping. Intrigued, Mia follows the sound and finds Jake, a musician with soulful eyes and a wounded heart, playing a song that feels like it was written just for her. Connection is instant, but the words are few, a silence filled with tension and mystery. And as their music intertwines, Mia senses that something big is about to be revealed. Something that could change everything she thought she knew about herself and love. Each chord, each glance, adds a new layer of emotion. And what begins as simple curiosity quickly turns into a whirlwind of uncontrollable feelings. As secrets from the past start to surface, Mia finds herself faced with an impossible choice: pursue her ambitions or dive headfirst into a love that could redefine her life forever. This is a story where music isn't just sound. It's the key to a future she never imagined. What is Jake's song really hiding? And how far would you go to discover the truth? I woke up to the first rays of sunlight filtering through the thin curtains of my tiny apartment in Nashville. The city was alive, pulsing with the rhythm of music that seeped through the walls and into my dreams. But as I lay there, the weight of my ambitions pressed heavily on my chest. My heart ached with the desire to make it as a songwriter, yet the reality of my situation felt suffocating. I glanced at the stack of rejection letters on my desk, each one a reminder of the dreams I was struggling to keep alive. Sighing, I swung my legs over the edge of the bed, planted my feet on the cool wooden floor. The faint strumming of a guitar floated through the window, weaving its way into my thoughts. I paused, the sound wrapping around me like a warm embrace. My curiosity piqued. I moved closer to the window, pushing aside the curtain slightly. "What is that?" I murmured to myself, tilting my head to catch more of the melody. It was as if the music was calling to me, beckoning me to follow. Without thinking twice, I grabbed my jacket and slipped out the door, eager to discover the source of this enchanting sound. The streets of Nashville were alive with energy, air thick with the scent of fresh coffee and warm pastries. I followed the music, letting it guide me through the bustling sidewalks and past lively cafes. As I turned a corner, I spotted him. A man sitting on the steps of an old brick building, his eyes closed, completely lost in the music he was creating. His fingers danced over the guitar strings, coaxing out notes, seemed to echo the very essence of longing and hope. I stood there, mesmerized. The way he played spoke to me in a language I hadn't known I needed. I felt an immediate connection, a sense of kinship that ignited something deep within me. But as I watched him, a wave of hesitation washed over me. Should I approach him? What would I even say? Just breathe. "Mia," I whispered to myself, trying to muster the courage I often found lacking. I took a step forward, my heart racing as I approached him. "Excuse me," I said, my voice barely rising above the sound of his strumming. He opened his eyes, surprise flashing across his face. "Oh, hey there." His voice was warm, like the sound of a favorite song. "I didn't see you there. I was just listening. Your music is beautiful," I stammered, feeling my cheeks flush. "I'm Mia, by the way." "Jake," he replied, offering a shy smile. He seemed to relax a little as he set his guitar down. "Thank you, I was just playing what I felt." "I could feel it," I said, flipping my hair over my shoulder. "It's like it captured everything I've been trying to write but couldn't find the words for." Jake looked at me, his expression shifting, as if he were seeing beyond my facade. "I get that. Music has a way of expressing what we can't say out loud." His gaze was intense, as if he were searching for something in my eyes. "Exactly," I exclaimed, feeling a spark of excitement. "It's like it unlocks emotions we didn't even know were there." He nodded, but there was a flicker of something else in his eyes. Something guarded. "Yeah, it can do that," he said quietly, almost to himself. I pondered his words, sensing a deeper story hidden beneath his calm exterior. Do you play here often?" I asked, hoping to keep the conversation going. "Whenever I can," Jake replied, his fingers absent-mindedly tapping on the guitar. "It's my escape. Sometimes the world feels too heavy, and music helps me breathe again. I felt an ache in my chest at his words. "I know what you mean," I said, my heart racing as I realized how deeply I connected with him. "It's hard sometimes, trying to make it in this city. The pressure can be overwhelming." Jake looked at me, his expression softening. "Yeah, it is, but finding those moments of clarity through music makes it all worth it, right?" "Absolutely," I replied, a smile breaking through my initial hesitation. In that moment, I felt as though we were sharing something profound, a silent understanding that transcended words. As we stood there, the sun shining brightly above, I couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was just the beginning of something I had longed for. A connection that felt as real as the music we both cherished. I couldn't shake off the melody that lingered in my mind, woven with the threads of Jake's music. It was as if each note had reached into my soul, pulling out emotions I didn't even know I had buried. I found myself at my small kitchen table, a cup of lukewarm coffee growing cold beside me as I scribbled furiously in my notebook, attempting to capture the essence of what I felt. The words flowed like a river, cathartic release of pent-up feelings, and I couldn't help but smile at the way the lyrics took shape. "Maybe that's it," I murmured to myself, scribbling down yet another line. "Maybe it's about finding the courage to be vulnerable." I leaned back in my chair, my heart racing as I thought about Jake. Our brief encounter had sparked something deep within me, and I knew I had to see him again. Later that week, I wandered into a quaint record store on the corner of a bustling street, hoping to find a new vinyl to inspire my writing. The air smelled of old paper and polished wood, the soft sound of jazz crackling from the speakers. As I meandered through the aisles, I felt a familiar presence behind me. "Mia," Jake's voice broke through my thoughts. I turned to find him standing there, a shy smile playing at the corners of his lips. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Hey Jake, I was just looking for some inspiration," I replied, my heart fluttering at the sight of him. "What about you?" "I was hoping to find something new to listen to," he said, glancing around. "You know, something that doesn't remind me of, well, everything else." His voice trailed off as he picked up a record, his fingers lingering over the cover art. "Everything else?" I asked, trying to draw him out. There was a hint of sadness in his eyes, and I felt compelled to know more. "Just stuff from my past. It's hard to shake sometimes," he admitted, his gaze flickering to me before returning to the album in his hands. "But enough about me. What have you been working on?" I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I wanted to share my deepest thoughts with him just yet. "I've been writing a lot since I heard you play. Your music really inspired me." His eyes widened slightly, and he looked genuinely surprised. "Really? I didn't think it was that powerful." "It is," I insisted, feeling emboldened by his interest. "It's like your guitar spoke to something inside me. I've been writing lyrics that reflect, well, everything I feel." Jake smiled, a glimmer of appreciation shining through. "That's amazing. I think music has a way of connecting us in ways we can't always explain. You want to share some of your lyrics?" I felt a rush of warmth at his suggestion. "I'd love to. Let me grab my notebook from the cafe nearby." As we walked together, the conversation flowed effortlessly. We exchanged stories of our favorite artists, the music that shaped our lives, and the dreams we held close to our hearts. There was a comfort in our banter, and I realized how easily we connected. After I retrieved my notebook, we settled at a small table in the cafe. With every lyric I read aloud, I could see Jake's expression shift from curiosity to understanding. "Wow, Mia," he said, leaning back in his chair. "These are beautiful. You have a gift." I felt a blush creep up my cheeks. "Thank you, but I still have so much to learn. Sometimes I feel like I'm just floundering." "Don't doubt yourself," he urged, his voice steady. "Every artist feels that way at some point. You just have to keep creating, even when it gets tough." His sincerity struck a chord within me, and I felt compelled to share more. "What about you? Why do you play?" Jake hesitated for a moment, his brow furrowing slightly. "It's complicated. I play because it's the only way I know how to express myself. But sometimes it feels like I'm just running from something." "What are you running from?" I asked quietly, sensing a deeper story behind his words. He looked away, his gaze distant. "Old wounds, I guess. Relationships that didn't end well." I don't want to let anyone in again. His admission hung heavily in the air between us, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of empathy for him. You don't have to face it alone, we could help each other. Jake met my gaze, and for a brief moment we shared a connection that felt electric. The fear and uncertainty of the past loomed over us, but in that moment, it seemed like we could face it together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over Nashville, I found myself sitting on the worn-out couch in my tiny apartment, staring blankly at my guitar. Pressure to succeed felt like a weight on my chest, the dreams of my family echoing in my mind. I could almost hear my mother's voice, urging me to take that leap into stardom, to make something of myself in this city that thrived on talent and ambition. I reached for my phone, contemplating whether to text Jake. Despite the brief conversations we had shared, I felt an inexplicable bond forming between us. He had a way of making me feel seen, yet his guarded demeanor hinted at a deeper story lurking beneath the surface. I had seen glimpses of his pain. There was something unspoken in the way he played, a longing that resonated with my own struggles. I finally decided to reach out. Hey, do you want to grab coffee later? I could use a chat. A moment later, my phone buzzed. Sure, sounds great. I know a place with the best coffee in town. When we met at the small cafe, the familiar aroma of roasted beans filled the air, mingling with the sound of soft music playing in the background. Jake was already seated at a corner table, his guitar case resting against the chair. He looked up as I approached, a shy smile creeping onto his lips. Hey Mia, I hope you don't mind that I brought my guitar, he said, gesturing to the case. I thought maybe we could play a bit. Of course not. I'd love that, I replied, feeling a flutter of excitement. As he opened the case, I couldn't help but admire the way his fingers moved with such familiarity over the instrument. We ordered our drinks, and as we waited, I decided to take the plunge. Jake, can I be honest about something? I feel this pressure from my family to succeed. It's like they're living vicariously through me, and sometimes I wonder if I even want what they want for me. Jake's eyes darkened, and he leaned back in his chair, contemplating my words. I get that. My family had their own expectations too. It's tough, isn't it? Sometimes I feel like I'm running away from my past, trying to carve out my own path. But it's hard when everyone around you has a vision of who you should be. I nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. Exactly. I just want to write music that feels true to me, not something that fits a mold. He took a sip of his coffee, then looked directly at me. What if we wrote something together? Something that captures what we're feeling? My heart raced at the suggestion. I'd love that, but I have to admit, I'm a bit scared. What if it turns out terrible? Then it turns out terrible, he replied with a grin. But at least we'll have tried, and who knows, it might turn into something beautiful, just like what we've been through. His words resonated with me, igniting a spark of inspiration. Okay, let's do it, I exclaimed, my nerves turning into excitement. After finishing our coffees, we found a quiet spot in the park, nestled under the sprawling branches of an old oak tree. The late afternoon sun filtered through the leaves, casting a dappled light around us. Jake pulled out his guitar, and I could see the tension in his shoulders as he strummed the first few chords. As the music flowed, I felt the weight of my expectations slowly lift. We played and sang, weaving our fears and dreams into the lyrics. But as I watched Jake, I noticed his expression shift. There was a shadow in his eyes, a hint of something he was holding back. Jake, I said cautiously, what's going on? You seem distant. He paused, his fingers hovering over the strings. It's just, sometimes I feel like I'm not enough, Like I've messed up too many times in the past. I don't want to drag you down with my baggage. I leaned closer, my voice soft but firm. You're not dragging me down. We're in this together. Whatever you're afraid of, we can face it. You've seen me at my worst. I want to see you too. He sighed, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. Okay, but promise me you won't judge me. I promise, replied, my heart racing. Just tell me. As he began to share his story, I felt a deeper connection forming between us. He spoke of a past relationship that had left scars, of moments that haunted him, and of his fear of opening up again. Each word he shared felt like a piece of a puzzle, revealing the man behind the music. I just don't want to get hurt again, he whispered, vulnerability etched on his face. Neither do I admitted. But maybe that's what makes us stronger. We can face our fears together. In that moment, as we sat beneath the old oak tree, I realized that our melodies weren't just notes strung together. They were the echoes of our lives, intertwined in a rhythm of hope and healing. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, I found myself sitting across from Jake in the dimly lit recording studio. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words, the air electric with anticipation. My heart raced as I glanced at him, the way he absent-mindedly strummed his guitar, lost in thought. Each note he played seemed to resonate with my own emotions, but tonight felt different. The chemistry between us was undeniable, yet there was an invisible wall that neither of us dared to break down. Do you ever wonder if we're supposed to be more than just friends? I blurted out, the question hanging in the air like a heavy fog. My heart raced as I waited for his response, half expecting him to brush it off with a joke. Jake looked up, his fingers pausing on the strings. I do, but it's complicated, you know? His gaze drifted to the floor, avoiding eye contact as if the weight of his thoughts were too much to bear. Complicated how? I pressed, leaning forward. You can trust me, Jake. I want to know what's going on in that head of yours. He sighed, running a hand through his tousled hair, frustration evident on his face. It's just, every time I think about getting closer to you, I remember what happened before. He hesitated, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't want to hurt you the way I got her. I felt a pang in my chest. But isn't that what life is about? Taking risks? Isn't that what we do with our music? I gestured towards the guitar, my heart pounding as I spoke. We lay our souls bare, hoping someone will understand the pain and joy we express. Jake's eyes flickered with something, perhaps understanding or fear. You're right, but music is one thing. People, they're different. You can't just write a song about your heart and expect it to turn out okay in real life. He shifted in his seat, the tension palpable. I couldn't help but smile, despite the heaviness in the air. You're a songwriter, Jake. You know how to turn pain into something beautiful. Why can't we do that together? He paused, contemplating my words. What if we screw it up? What if we ruin the music we have? His voice was laced with vulnerability, and it struck a chord deep within me. Maybe we should stop worrying about what could go wrong and focus on what could go right, I suggested, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I feel something special between us, something worth exploring. A flicker of hope danced in his eyes, but he shook his head. I don't want to ruin our friendship. It means too much to me. Friendship doesn't have to end, Jake, I argued, leaning closer. We can still write music together, still support each other, but we can also be more than friends. We can be partners in this journey. He looked at me, his expression softening. You really believe that? I do, I replied, my heart pounding in my chest. I believe we could create something incredible together, not just in music but in life. The silence stretched between us, filled with the weight of our unspoken fears. Finally, Jake broke it, his voice barely above a whisper. I want to believe that too, Mia, but I can't help but think of all the times I've failed before. What if we fall apart? Then we pick up the pieces and write a song about it, I said, a teasing smile breaking through my serious demeanor. We can channel our pain into music, just like we've always done. But we can do it together. I'm not afraid. Jake studied me for a long moment, and I could see the internal battle waging within him. Finally, he sighed, a small smile tugging at his lips. All right, let's try, but promise me we'll be honest with each other, no matter what. I nodded fervently, my heart soaring with the possibility of what lay ahead. I promise. With that, we dove into our music, our voices and melodies intertwining seamlessly. As we crafted a song about vulnerability and trust, laughter bubbled between us, momentarily eclipsing the tension that had lingered. Each strum of the guitar, each lyric we penned, felt like a step toward something beautiful, something real. And as I looked at Jake, his focus unwavering, I realized that whatever fears lay ahead, I was ready to face them together. As I sat at the small kitchen table in my cramped apartment, I stared blankly at the half-eaten toast in front of me. The sunlight filtered through the dusty window, illuminating the scattered sheet music and crumpled lyrics that littered the space. It was a beautiful day in Nashville, and yet I felt an unsettling heaviness in my chest. My phone buzzed, breaking the silence, and I glanced down to see a message from my manager. I opened it hesitantly, my heart racing. "Mia, I have big news. The label wants to meet with you. They're interested in signing you." I dropped the phone onto the table, my heart pounding in my ears. This was everything I had been working toward, the dream I had chased since I had moved to this city. But instead of excitement, a wave of anxiety washed over me. What did this mean for me? Would I have to sacrifice my music, my vision, for the sake of commercial success? I felt trapped, caught between the expectations of my family and the pressure that came with the prospect of fame. By the time evening rolled around, I found myself sitting at a small cafe, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts. I had invited Jake to join me, desperately needing his perspective. He arrived just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the bustling streets of Nashville. His presence always brought me a sense of calm, a grounding force amidst the chaos of my aspirations. "Hey," he said, sliding into the seat across from me, his eyes scanning my face for clues. "What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a smile, but the tension in my chest was palpable. "I got a message from my manager. The label wants to sign me." Jake raised an eyebrow, a mix of surprise and concern flickering across his features. "That's amazing, Mia. You've worked so hard for this." "Yeah," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "But what if it's not what I want? What if I lose myself in the process?" He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, considering my words. "I get it. It's a big decision, but you can't let anyone else dictate your path. This is your music, your life." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. My family has always pushed me to succeed. They think this is my ticket to happiness, but what if it just leads to more pressure? I feel like I'm being pulled in so many directions. Jake leaned forward, his gaze steady. "What do you want, Mia? Not what they want, but what you want." "I don't know," I admitted, tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. "I love music, but I don't want to compromise myself for a deal. I want to create something real, something that means something." He reached across the table, his hand brushing against mine. "You have to be true to yourself. That means turning down the contract? Then do it. You're the one who has to live with the consequence, not them." The sincerity in his eyes made my heart ache. I wanted to believe him, to have the courage to follow my heart. But the weight of my family's expectations felt like a noose tightening around my neck. During dinner last night, they asked me about my plans for the future. It felt suffocating. In fact, my voice trembling. They want me to be a star, and I don't know if I want that. Jake's expression softened. He leaned closer. "I know it's tough, but you're not alone in this. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. Just remember, your happiness is what really matters." I nodded, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within me. "Thanks, Jake. Always know how to make me see things more clearly." As we sat there, the conversation flowed easily, but the underlying tension of my decision lingered in the air. I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, path ahead obscured by uncertainty. I knew I had to face my family and the looming contract, but I also knew I had Jake by my side, ready to catch me if I fell. Later that night, I returned home to find myself staring at the walls of my apartment, the weight of my choices pressing down on me. I picked up my guitar, fingers trembling as I strummed the first few chords. The music felt hollow without Jake, the connection we shared echoing in the silence. I longed for the comfort of his presence, way our melodies intertwined effortlessly. My heart raced as I thought of the meeting with the label. The dream I had chased for so long now felt like a burden. Would any of it be worth it? I lost myself along the way. As I played, the notes mingled with my doubts, bittersweet harmony that mirrored my inner turmoil. I turned away from the window, my heart heavy with the weight of the argument I had just had with Jake. The humid Nashville air felt suffocating, and as I sank into the worn-out couch of my apartment, I felt the familiar sting of frustration and disappointment creeping in. I had thought that opening up to him would bring us closer, but instead it seemed to have created a chasm between us, one that I wasn't sure how to bridge. The music sheets scattered on the coffee table were remnants of our collaboration, but now they felt like ghosts of what had been. A melody of hope and connection that was overshadowed by our unresolved fears. I picked up my guitar, strumming absent-mindedly, but the notes felt hollow, without Jake's harmonies to accompany me. Each pluck of the string only reminded me of the distance that had formed between us. Suddenly, I heard a soft knock at the door. My heart raced as I hesitated, unsure if I wanted to face him again. But before I could decide, the door creaked open, and Jake stepped inside, looking both relieved and anxious. He leaned against the doorframe, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, his expression a mix of concern and vulnerability. "Mia," he began, his voice low and hesitant. "Can we talk?" I took a deep breath, trying to mask the turmoil inside me. "What's there to talk about, Jake? We already said everything we needed to." I tried to sound indifferent. The tremor in my voice betrayed me. "I know, but I can't just ignore what happened. He paused, searching for the right words. "I didn't mean to push you away. I can't shake off this feeling that I'm not good enough for you. That if I let you in, I'll just end up hurting you." His words struck a chord deep within me. I looked away, unable to meet his gaze. "You think you're the only one with fears, Jake? I'm scared too. Scared of failing, scared of disappointing everyone, including myself." I felt my frustration boiling over. "You're not the only one with baggage. Then let's carry it together," he said, stepping closer. "I don't want to lose you. You mean too much to me." "Do I?" I challenged, my heart pounding in my chest, "because it feels like you're the one pushing me away. You won't let me in." "I'm trying." Jake ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his movements. "Every time I think I'm ready to open up, I remember my past and it scares the hell out of me. I don't want to drag you down with me." "Jake, I'm not afraid of your past," I said, my voice softening. "I want to be here for you. I want us to be real." He sighed, the tension between us palpable. "What if we fail? What if this, what we have, falls apart?" Took a step forward, closing the distance between us. "But what if it doesn't? What if this is our chance to create something beautiful together? The music we make, the connection we have, it's worth fighting for." Jake's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but I could see a glimmer of hope. I don't want to lose you, Mia. That thought keeps me up at night." "Then don't let fear win," I urged, my voice barely above a whisper. "Let's be honest about what we feel. No more hiding, no more running." He took a deep breath, his vulnerability laid bare before me. "You're right. I've been hiding, and I can't keep doing that. I care about you more than I thought I could." Something shifted in the air between us, a palpable tension that felt electric. I reached out, placing my hand on his arm. "Let's start over. No more walls, just us and our music." He looked down at my hand, then back into my eyes. "Together?" "Together," I confirmed, feeling a surge of determination. In that moment, the music faded into the background, replaced by the rhythm of our hearts. We were still scared, still uncertain, but we were willing to face it together. And for the first time in a while, I felt a flicker of hope igniting within me, a promise of what could be if we chose to embrace our fears instead of letting them control us. I stood backstage, my heart racing as I listened to the applause echoing through the venue. I had just finished my set, and the cheers felt like a mix of validation and confusion. The energy in the room was electric, yet I felt a void that I couldn't ignore. Jake had been absent from my life for weeks now, and his absence loomed larger than the stage lights shining down on me. "Great show, Mia," one of my friends exclaimed, wrapping me in a tight hug. I forced a smile, but my mind kept drifting back to Jake. He should have been here, standing at the edge of the stage, his eyes locked onto mine as I sang. Instead, I felt an emptiness where our shared moments used to be. As the crowd began to disperse, I spotted Jake leaning against a wall, looking lost in thought. My heart skipped a beat, but I hesitated. Would he even want to talk to me after everything that had happened? The argument we had still stung, and it echoed in my mind like a haunting melody. "Jake?" I finally called out, my voice barely above a whisper. He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "Mia," he replied, his voice low. There was a tension in the air, thick enough to cut through. I could see the conflict in his eyes, a mixture of longing and hurt. I didn't expect you to come," I admitted, shifting my weight nervously. I thought you'd want to stay away after everything." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I thought about it, but I couldn't not be here. Your music, it pulls me in." A wave of warmth washed over me, but it was quickly replaced by the chill of uncertainty. "I've been thinking a lot, about us, about what happened." "Me too," he said, stepping closer. "I hate that we fought. I hate that I pushed you away." "Jake, you didn't push me away. I pushed you," I confessed, my voice trembling. "I was scared. Scared of what we were building, scared of what it could mean for my career. Us." His gaze softened, and I could see the pain reflected in his eyes. I was scared too. But I know now that running away from each other isn't the answer. It just makes everything worse. I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. "But what do we do? Do we just pretend that everything is fine? That we can go back to how it was?" He shook his head, a resolute look in his eyes. "No, I don't want to pretend. I want to be honest about what we feel. I want to know if you still see a future for us, even with all the chaos around us." "I don't know if I can have both, Jake," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I feel like I have to choose between my career and what I want with you." "Why can't you have both?" he asked, his brow furrowing in confusion. "You're an incredible songwriter, Mia. You deserve to chase your dreams, but you also deserve love. We can figure this out together." "What if I fail?" I burst out, my frustration boiling over. "What if I pursue this dream and it consumes me, and I lose you in the process?" Jake stepped closer, his eyes locking onto mine. "And what if you don't pursue it? What if you let fear dictate your choices? I don't want to be the reason you hold back from your dreams. That's not love, Mia." I looked away, feeling the weight of his words settle heavily in my chest. "But it feels like such a risk. What if we're not strong enough to handle it all?" He reached for my hand, his touch sending a jolt of electricity through me. "We can be strong together. I believe in us, and I believe in you. You have to trust that we can navigate this." In that moment, I wanted to believe him. I wanted to let go of the fear that had kept me chained to my insecurities. But doubt crept in like a shadow. "I just don't know, Jake. I don't know if I can do this." "We're at a crossroads, Mia," he said, voice steady. "You have a choice to make. But whatever you decide, I want you to know that I'll support you, even if it means we have to go our separate ways." His words cut deep, and I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "You can't say that. I don't want to lose you. Then fight for what you want," urged. "Don't let fear dictate your choices. Follow your heart." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words anchor me. "I need time to think," finally managed, my voice trembling. "Take all the time you need," he said softly. "Just know that I'll be here, waiting for you to make your choice." As I watched him walk away, a part of me felt shattered, but another part felt a flicker of hope. Maybe Jake was right. Maybe I could have both my dreams and the love that had blossomed between us. I just needed to find the courage to make it happen. As I stepped into the recording studio, the familiar scent of polished wood and soundproofing foam filled my lungs. But instead of excitement, a heavy weight settled in my chest. I had just signed a life-changing contract with a major label, and yet everything felt oddly hollow. I glanced around at the sleek equipment and the glimmering gold records hanging on the walls, but none of it resonated with me. The vibrant world of music I had longed for felt muted, like a song played without passion. "Hey Mia, you ready to lay down those tracks?" asked James, the producer, his voice upbeat as he clapped me on the back. I forced a smile, nodding, but inside I was screaming. "Yeah, just give me a second," I replied, my voice lacking the enthusiasm I wanted to convey. I took a deep breath and positioned myself in front of the microphone, but as I opened my mouth to sing, Jake's absence hit me like a tidal wave. The music that once flowed effortlessly from my heart now felt like a chore, a performance devoid of the spark that had ignited my passion for songwriting. "Let's start with Chasing Dreams," James suggested, referencing one of my newer songs. I nodded again, trying to shake off the feeling that had settled around me like a shroud. I strummed my guitar, the notes reverberating in the studio, but they felt lifeless, lacking the vibrancy they once held. "Come on, Mia. More energy," James called out, his voice tinged with impatience. I tried to channel my emotions, but every note reminded me of Jake and the music we had created together. The laughter, the late-night jam sessions are shared dreams. Can we take a break? I finally blurted out, my voice cracking as I struggled to maintain composure. James raised an eyebrow but nodded, sensing my turmoil. I stepped out of the booth, the walls closing in around me, suffocating. Outside, the sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city. I leaned against the cool brick wall, my heart heavy with a mixture of regret and longing. I pulled out my phone and stared at the screen, searching for the courage to call Jake. But what would I say? Hey, I miss you? Would it even matter? Hey, Mia! A familiar voice startled me. I turned to see my friend Lily approaching, her long hair swaying in the breeze. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I don't know, Lily. I signed with a label and I thought it would feel amazing, but I trailed off, unable to put my feelings into words. But it doesn't feel right without Jake? She finished for me, her expression softening. I nodded, tears brimming in my eyes. Everything we built together feels like it's crumbling. I thought I could do this on my own, but without him, it just feels empty. You talked to him? She asked gently. No, I admitted, biting my lip. I thought space would help, but I just feel more lost. Lily reached out, squeezing my hand. You need to be honest with yourself and with him. You both have something special. Don't let that slip away. Her words echoed in my mind as I returned to the studio. I sat down at the piano, my fingers grazing the keys as a melody began to form. A haunting tune that captured my loneliness and longing. I played softly, letting the music wash over me, each note a whisper of what I felt deep inside. In that moment, I realized that Jake and I had both been writing about our pain and longing, but we hadn't shared those songs with each other. We were navigating our separate roads, both composing melodies of heartache while missing the chance to harmonize. I closed my eyes, allowing the music to guide me as I poured every ounce of emotion into the keys. The lyrics flowed out, capturing the essence of my solitude and the ache of his absence. I'm lost in a chorus, a song without a sound, searching for the harmony that can't be found. Each note is a memory, piece of what we had, but the silence around me is driving me mad. As I finished, I took a shaky breath, realizing that I had to reach out to him to bridge the gap between us. The emptiness I felt was not just a void. It was a call to reconnect, to share the music and the love that had once flowed so freely between us. With renewed determination, I picked up my phone and dialed Jake's number, my heart racing as the call connected. The air was electric as I stood backstage, my heart pounding in sync with the muffled thrum of the crowd outside. I could hear them cheering, their voices rising and falling like waves crashing against the shore. This was my moment, but instead of excitement, an unsettling ache filled my chest. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotion swirling inside me. Today, I would perform a new song, one that had been born from the depths of my heart, a raw expression of love, loss, and the journey of self-discovery I had been navigating for months. But as I glanced at the setlist in my hands, my mind drifted to Jake. It had been weeks since we last spoke, and the silence between us felt like a chasm I couldn't cross. I missed him, his laughter, his music, and the way he made me feel understood. Are you ready, Mia? My manager's voice broke through my thoughts, bringing me back to the present. You're up in 5. I nodded, forcing a smile, though my stomach twisted with nerves. Yeah, I'm ready, I lied. I wasn't sure if I was ready to bare my soul in front of hundreds of people, but I knew I had to. I stepped onto the stage, the bright lights blinding me for a moment. As my eyes adjusted, I could make out the sea of faces, expectant and eager. I took my place at the microphone, the familiar weight of my guitar resting against my chest. I strummed the first chords, the sound resonating through the venue. The crowd quieted, and I could feel their attention shift toward me. Taking a deep breath, I let my fingers dance across the strings, pouring every ounce of emotion into each note. This song is for anyone who has ever felt lost, who has ever loved deeply and let go, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. It's about finding your way back to yourself. As I began to sing, the words flowed out like a river, each line a testament to my struggles and the undeniable connection I had with Jake. The chorus hit hard, and I could hear my own heart echoing in the lyrics. I've wandered through shadows, I've chased after dreams, but without you, love, nothing is as it seems. As I sang, I caught a glimpse of him in the audience. Jake stood there, his expression a mix of admiration and something deeper. Longing, perhaps? My heart raced and I almost faltered, but I pressed on. My voice rising above the swell of music and emotion. In that moment, it felt as though I was singing just for him. I poured everything into the final verse, my eyes locked on his. So here I stand, with my heart in my hands, ready to face what may come, not alone, but with you. The final chord rang out, and the crowd erupted into applause. I stood there, breathless, my gaze still fixed on Jake. As the cheers faded, I felt a wave of vulnerability wash over me. I needed to speak to him, tell him everything I had been feeling, but the fear of rejection loomed large. After the performance, I hurried backstage, my heart racing. I needed to find him, reach out and bridge the gap that had formed between us. Just as I turned the corner, there he was, waiting for me. The tension in the air was palpable, charged with unspoken words. "Mia," he said, his voice low and filled with emotion. "You were incredible out there." "Thanks, Jake," I replied, my hands trembling slightly. I meant every word. It was about us, about how I feel." He stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. "I felt it too, every note, every word. But I don't know if I can do this, if we can do this." "Why not?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "We've been through so much together. I can't ignore what we have." I've been scared," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "Scared of getting hurt again, scared of losing what we have." "Jake, I don't want to lose you," I said, my voice trembling. "I can't pretend that what we have doesn't matter. You mean too much to me." He took a deep breath, his expression softening. "You have no idea how much I've missed you." I thought stepping away would make it easier, but it only made me realize how incomplete I feel without you. The air between us shifted, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. As the last notes of my song lingered in the air, I stepped off the stage, my heart racing. The festival buzzed with energy, but all I could focus on was the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I had just sung about love, loss, and the journey of self-discovery, and every word felt like a revelation. The crowd might have cheered. My eyes were searching for one person, Jake. When I finally spotted him, standing at the edge of the backstage area, my heart leaped. He looked at me with a mix of pride and something deeper, something I had longed to see again. As I walked toward him, the world around us faded. The noise of the festival, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, all of it disappeared, leaving just the two of us in this moment suspended in time. "Hey," I said, my voice trembling slightly as I approached him. "Did you hear what I sang?" He nodded, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Every word." "It was beautiful, Mia. You poured your heart into it." "Yeah, but I meant every word, Jake. I can't keep pretending that what we had doesn't matter. It does. It matters so much." I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. "I've missed you. I've missed us." He stepped closer, his expression shifting from admiration to something more vulnerable. "Mia, I've missed you too. Being apart was harder than I thought it would be. I realized how much you mean to me." I searched his face, hoping to find the truth in his words. "Then why did we let it come to this? Why did we let our fears push us apart?" In that moment, the air was thick with unspoken emotions, and I could see the struggle in his eyes. "I was scared," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Scared that I'd lose you again. I thought distancing myself would help you focus on your career. But it didn't help. It just made everything feel so empty," I replied, my throat tightening. "I need you in my life, Jake. I need you by my side, in music and in everything else." Took a deep breath, and I could see the determination settle on his features. "There's something I need to show you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, unfolding it carefully. "I wrote something during our time apart. It's a love song." "Jake," I started, feeling a rush of emotion. "You didn't have to." He held up a hand, silencing me gently. "Please, let me do this." With a sincerity that pierced right through me, he began to sing, his voice raw and filled with emotion. "I've been lost without your light, in the shadows of my doubt. The melody remains, and it's you that I can't live without." As he sang, I felt the words wrap around my heart, igniting a flame of hope I thought had flickered out. His eyes never left mine, and I could see the love and the pain etched on his face. When he finished, he took a step closer, the distance between us evaporating. Mia, I don't want to just be your friend or your collaborator. I want to be everything to you. I want to stand by your side in this crazy world of music and light. I felt tears spill over, and I wiped them away with a shaky hand. Jake, I don't want to chase a dream that doesn't include you. I'd rather build a life filled with music and love together and achieve success alone. He smiled, relief washing over him. So, what do you say? Let's make music together. Let's face our fears together. I promise to support you, no matter what. Together, I echoed, the word tasting sweet on my lips. Together. With a newfound determination, we made our way back to the stage, hand in hand. The crowd was still buzzing, and as we stepped into the spotlight, I felt my heart soar. We stood before the microphone, facing an audience filled with eager faces. Thank you all for being here tonight, I said, my voice steady. This next song is for anyone who has ever felt lost in love, for anyone who has ever been afraid to embrace what they truly want. It's about vulnerability, trust, and the power of connection. As we began to play the song Jake had written, I felt the music flow through us, intertwining our souls in a way I had never experienced before. Chords resonated with our shared journey. The pain, the longing, the hope. When we finished, the applause thundered. All I could focus on was Jake's eyes shining with love and promise. I stepped closer, wrapping my arms around him, feeling the warmth of his embrace as the crowd erupted in cheers. And in that moment, the world felt right again. I love you, Jake, I whispered, my heart full. I love you too, Mia, he replied, his voice a tender vow. And as we shared a passionate kiss, the music faded into the background, leaving only the sound of our hearts beating in sync. Beautiful harmony of love and renewal. Now that you've got a glimpse of this intense story, imagine what's next. Did you know it all started with a mysterious phone call? That's right. In the previous video, you'll see how Ben's reunion with his brother was nothing like they expected. Buried secrets, shocking revelations, and that burning question. Will they be able to rebuild what was lost? Or are they on the brink of losing everything again? Don't miss out. Click on the video popping up on your screen and find out how this story really began.